speaker today, Mr. Richard. He says, a road trip not pushes one to great distances, but can improve a father and son relationship. He will speak today how one such trip brought them lessons to be better people. His speech is Road Less Traveled. Please welcome Mr. Richard Lamb.
6 days, 2,800 miles, and 8 amazing states. That is the distance I traveled from San Jose, California to Orlando, Florida. That is the trip that changed and improved my relationship with my father. Prior to this road trip, my father and I had a very distant relationship. Him coming from a very strong Asian background, very authoritative, as well as a language barrier between Vietnamese and English between both of us. A typical phone conversation would be, Richard, mày ăn chưa? Mày khỏe? Yes, Dad, I did eat dinner. I'm at Starbucks right now. Starbucks? Cafe? Yeah, coffee. I gotta go back now. I gotta go with my friends. We didn't really have much going on. Our typical conversation would be that much. And imagine taking a road trip for that extended period of time. You would expect a lot of this. However, this trip we took between both of us definitely improved our relationship. It was not just silence, but much more, and lessons that we learned together through this journey. The first lesson that we learned together is to get off the beaten path. Originally, we had this very rigid plan. Drive Highway 5, go down to Highway 10, stop at each state, rest, and do the same thing day after day. By the time we got to San Antonio, Texas, I was very bored with this monotonous experience. We got to the point where we had this conversation in our hotel room. It would be like, Dad, we gotta go out. We gotta go out to dinner. I can't stay in this hotel room. Guys say, Dandy, my eye. I can't go anymore. I gotta eat, I gotta get out of here. I know we've been driving for 10 hours. We gotta go explore the city of San Antonio, Texas. I don't know what's out there, but we gotta go. Okay. So we went to San Antonio, Texas and explored the Alamo and the Riverwalk, which I didn't know nothing about until I went to the Hotel Concierge office. Which the Alamo is on top in San Antonio downtown, and right below it is Riverwalk, which is this long stream underground city of river. And you can take water taxis to just travel this modern day downtown of San Antonio, Texas. It's tons of restaurants, cafes. It's very unique seeing this underground downtown on top of the city while me and my dad were just taking this water taxi tour. That actually started our trend to go out further every time we stopped to a different state. Not just drive, but really venture off the beaten path. Explore the city, even if it was just for a couple hours. Just to get outside the hotel room and not just rest, but really explore. That leads me to my second point. Being open to new cultures and food. When we went to Louisiana, New Orleans, we had to go. We didn't know what was going on there, but I had a feeling that I had to explore crawfish and jambalaya. So we went to the very tourist area in New Orleans called Crocs, where we heard that was the original place to try out crawfish and jambalaya. As you imagine, I did not know how to eat crawfish, and neither my dad, he didn't know how to eat it either. So we learned from the bartender at the time. So you separate the head and the tail. You slurp the head. You take out pieces of the shell of the tail, and then you eat it. So much similar to a shrimp. My dad and I were like looking at each other just with our messy hands and looking at the 10-pound of crawfish that we ordered and thought to ourselves, we're going to be doing this for a while. And jambalaya, you have not lived until you get jambalaya in New Orleans. Just the smell, the spices, the aroma, it's is intoxicating. And the taste, very delicious. My third lesson that my dad taught me about road trip is that you should get what you want, but with the least amount spent. So always be frugal in that sense. As you imagine, you're taking a trip, you always want to grab souvenirs. Like various souvenirs. It could be food, it could be random statues. But my dad taught me, spend less to get what you want. So I was like, oh, how do I do this? So as you see on your table, we took random pictures. But postcards are always my best souvenir I like to get. It's a preview auction that I like to get for every road trip I go to, every country I visit. So you probably see random trips of New Mexico, you see some in New Orleans, some are Canada, random like Vancouver, you got Nevada, Palm Desert, San Francisco, California too. So I made it an effort to, every time I go to a new place, get a postcard, take tons of pictures. And that is my souvenir for every time I go somewhere new. In conclusion, this trip really taught me and my dad that we don't have to say much to show that we care. We still have our awkward conversations. But the months leading after the road trip, when I was in Atlanta, Florida, my mom calls me randomly and says, "Richard, your father keeps on telling your uncle about your road trip and this amazing time we had." And my dad always calls me and says, "Richard, we should have went here on the side. We should have visited more of the Grand Canyon more. Or we should have went venture out to another state." It's like, yes, Dad, I know. Thank you for taking me on this journey. So I'll conclude my road trip and my journey with my dad by saying that family is always important. And I was glad that I took this very special road trip and this journey with my father that I never could take back, and I never could have done without him. Thank you, Toastmasters.